15 is the final. Michigan, all right, 24-15 is the final. Michigan gets it done without Jim Harbaugh. They bet on themselves and got it done today, boys. No passes in the second half. Somewhere, Bo Schembechler is smiling. I believe 36 straight runs. Michigan dominates over 200 yards rushing. Blake Corum, 145 yards rushing down the ground, closed it out with that 30-yard touchdown run there at the end of the fourth quarter. I'm going to kick it over to you, Sam. First off, what's your initial thoughts on this game, this emotional win? You saw it there with Sharon Moore at the end of the game on the television.
Yeah, I think, first of all, you got to start out by talking about the Big Ten and the unprofessional, unprecedented, just the kind of treatment that they gave Michigan today is shameful. It is not the way that you're supposed to treat any of your members, let alone one of your flagship members. To do Michigan like that, even if you were going to punish them, you can't tell me that they came to the decision to suspend Jim Harbaugh at 5 o'clock yesterday, especially when they released it to the media before they released it to Michigan. And so for Michigan to deal with that kind of adversity and to come into Happy Valley today and basically bum rush them. You know, when you run the football 30 plus times in a row, that's like me okay, here are my signs. Take them. Take my signs. Stop me. And they couldn't do it. They could not do it. What excuse does Manny Diaz have now? What excuse does James Franklin have now? It's like I said on Twitter, James Franklin is a Boone's Farm coach. What do I mean by that? You're paying Chris-style prices for a Boone's Farm coach. Now, I've had Boone's Farm. I've had like a sit of Chris-style. It's like, you know, it's way above my pay grade. But the point is, that's what they're paying. They're paying for Chris-style results. And they're getting store brand champagne and wine. That's what James Franklin is. He is not a coach who is going to make a difference against a better team. Because let's be clear. You had Penn State folks. I was doing the CBS HQ ahead of time. I was listening to some of the analysts, and they were like, you know, people around here think that Michigan blew Penn State out last year because Michigan cheated. Michigan blew Penn State out in 16. Michigan blew Penn State out in 18. I mean, this is not anything new. James Franklin been getting drilled for years. He does not beat better teams. You know, if you're a great coach, you're a coach who can dial up the right play in the right moment, sometimes against a squad that's better than yours. But you had all the advantages. You were at home. Michigan didn't have their sign stealer guy. They just found out before the game, literally, that their head coach wasn't going to be there, right? And you still couldn't get it done. Don't say anything. You get in front of a microphone or camera, shut up. Shut up about Michigan. Don't ever say Michigan again, other than we got to play them. But anything you got to say about how you match up with them, shut up. Because you just showed today you're inadequate. You're incapable of coaching a team to the level that is necessary to beat a team like Michigan. We've seen it every year, but let there be no doubt. Let there be no doubt today, after all the advantages you had, and you still couldn't get it done. Never say anything.
Some questionable calls by Franklin in the game, the 2-point conversions, especially the first one. Questionable why he did that. 4-16 now against Michigan and Ohio State. Doesn't win the big games. I'm going to kick it over to you, Alejandro. Obviously, you were down on the field all game. What was it like? And obviously give us some little tidbits, some observations that you saw down there at pre-game, during the game, and post-game.
Yeah, emotional game, right, all the way around. And one that from the very beginning, you know, I got here before the Michigan football team got here because I wanted to see who was going to be getting off that bus. It sounds like from talking to players, they weren't even sure either, right? When they were boarding the bus, they did not know if Jim Harbaugh was going to be coaching a game here today or not. And then the game itself, you saw Sharon Moore after the game, right? He was sobbing. He was dropping an F-bomb on Fox. This meant a lot to him, and it meant a lot to this team. I think Trevor Keegan in particular, we talked to him post-game. You saw how angry he is. You saw how frustrated he is. You saw he dropped a word he probably shouldn't have either in his post-game press conference. But as a player, they've gone through a lot this year, right? And you can talk about, you know, what the punishment is, whether or not it's deserved, how it was delivered. But if you're looking at just the players, they have been through quite a lot more than you'd expect a normal football team to on a year-to-year basis. And they're undefeated. You saw how they reacted when Blake Corum scored his final touchdown, right? You know, the celebration, kind of a mocking of Manny Diaz, a mocking of the Penn State coaching staff. You know, a "we can't hear you" to the crowd that had been chanting cheaters at them earlier in the afternoon. And then what did you hear at the end of the day here? You heard "Let's go Blue" chants from the Michigan fans who were left. Every road game has been left with only Michigan fans at the end. And from the very top of the stadium, you might be able to see it like right about there. Packed in Mays, chants of Jim Harbaugh, of free Jim Harbaugh, of "Let's go Blue," of "It's great to be a Michigan Wolverine." What it's clear from Michigan players and from the coaches we talked to today is they feel the support from the Michigan community. They feel the support from the fan base, from the administration, over what's been a very turbulent 48 hours, right? And that meant a lot to them, and that was 100% clear throughout this entire football game.
Sam Webb, in the second half, Penn State's first 4 possessions, Michigan limited them to 43 total yards. That Michigan defense stood up time and time again. What were you observing there, and how impressed were you with this Michigan defense? And is it the best defense in the country?
Yeah, I saw Michigan not jacking any signs and still jacking Penn State. That's what I saw. You know, you have a coach who, you know, they'll have innuendo. It's funny how they talk. All of them talk behind the scenes. None of them want to come out publicly and really put it. But I give James Franklin some credit. He'll have innuendo. You know, same thing with Manny Diaz with his little promo for the fans to come to this, doing the whole sign. Okay, so when you get drilled, no excuses, right? You had opportunities to go out. Michigan made a very clear change in the first half. We're going to start off and made a very clear change in the first half. They saw, we having problems blocking these guys. But we can run the football a little bit. You remember you asked me last week, Josh, you said, man, why isn't the run game good? It was some question like that. Why isn't the run game good? I said, what do you mean good? Good compared to what exactly? Is it as good as last year's run game? No, we can see that. We can concede that, right? We can acknowledge that. But is it good enough to win a championship? And my point to you was, yes, it was. What you didn't see last week was Michigan put J.J. McCarthy on the menu. You could tell that because their staple run play wasn't run one time. They didn't run one duo, because what Purdue did is what Illinois did and what TCU did. They were taking that play away. You had to get to the perimeter. And Michigan showed you they know how to get to the perimeter still with duo by putting a read on it. So I said to you, Josh, Michigan's run game is good enough when they add JJ to the mix.
Absolutely.
You add JJ to the mix, that adds perimeter run game to the mix. It is a different run game. It is good enough. So first off-schedule run, first third down conversion, what was it? It was a quarterback pin and pull on 3rd and 10, right? Yep. He had another key scramble where he was on the perimeter on the 4th down, cut it back inside for a run. They actually ran some up inside as well, some QB power up inside as well. So you add JJ to the mix, you give the defense something else to really think about, and now it opens up for the other players as well. Donovan had his best game of the year. Same thing with Blake. And then defensively, what can you say about Jesse Minter and the job that they've done? You got to make a quarterback who is challenged in Drew Aller. Don't let him get healthy on you. He's not ready for prime time. Don't let him have his prime time moment on you. And they prevented him from doing it. They got in his face. They rattled him a bit. They were doing a good job winning first down. But when the game was on his arm or in his hands to make a decision, he wasn't up to the task. Michigan showed that again today.
I'm sure after this win, there's still going to be some critics. But as far as getting the win on the road, no sign stolen, apparently, right? We can say that. How impressed are you from this win, from your vantage point there, Alejandro?
Hey, I was walking into the stadium this morning, and a Penn State fan told me, listen, I'll give you Penn State signs. We are going to run the ball on first down. We are going to run the ball on second down, and then Drew Aller will throw incomplete on 3rd. So when I was on the field, I passed that info. No, I'm just kidding. But incredibly impressed, right? This is a top 10 matchup. You can say what you want about Penn State. You can say what you want about Drew Aller. This is still the most challenging opponent Michigan has faced all season. And whether or not you were critical of Michigan's run game, whether or not you thought, you know, that maybe the success was due to stealing signs or whatever you wanted to say, It was very clear from the get-go that this was the most talented team that Michigan has faced all season. You know, a product of a down Big Ten, a product of their non-conference scheduling. So there were always going to be question marks. And Michigan, listen, I don't have the stats in front of me because when you're on the field, you don't get the play-by-play. But was it 30-plus times in a row they ran the ball to end?
Yeah, it was 32 times in a row.
Game?
32 times in a row.
What did they do? 32 times in a row. Are you kidding? Right. After what they've done this year on the ground, you run the ball 32 times in a row and you win the game comfortably. By the end of the game, Penn State fans were gone, right? This was not a game that was close late into the fourth quarter, although the score may look a little bit closer than what it ultimately was. This was a game where, hey, when Drew Aller threw that incomplete pass that seemed to be an interception, right? The interception that was overturned on review. I was standing next to a grounds crew person for Penn State. They overturned the call, and he leans over and says, "Just watch, he's going to throw another one." Right? This is a Penn State team that is absolutely a little bit limited. We saw that against Ohio State for Penn State. They don't have a passing attack to compete with a defense like Michigan's. But for them to come in the way they did, for them to shut down Drew Aller the way they did, and for them to run the ball in ways that we have not seen them do all year long, with Donovan Edwards, with Blake Corum, who has blood streaming down his face, by the way, after the game, streaming down his face from a cut right there over his nose, and with J.J. McCarthy. All three of those guys, the two backs and J.J., made very, very impressive runs. They brought out 7 offensive linemen for some snaps, right? They had Miles Sinton, they had Trente Jones out there, and to see them win a game like that, a way we haven't seen them win all year. Most impressive win of the year, no doubt. All the circumstances, the opponent, the venue, impressive. Any way you slice it.
Yeah, so Mike Stoner said manhandle. What? Yeah, manhandle. You get the ball
32 runs in a row.
Times? Yeah, 32 times in a row. That's getting at what you want. You want me to pump? They got pumped. You want something? So I don't know how you want me to classify it, but that's what
they spanked them. They spanked them. They put them over the knee.
That Michigan, and you got to give Sharon more credit. First of all, there were some excellent game plan things. In addition to the off-schedule run plays, the 3rd and 10 with JJ, the touchdown with Donovan was another off-schedule run play. Another one would have popped if his wide receiver blocks going the other way, right? So he did a great job of mixing in the runs in a way that kept him off balance. JJ was a big part of that. But there was also a new package, right? They come out with that quad power package. That's what led to their first touchdown. Penn State didn't adjust to it the whole drive, where you throw Trente Jones in, you put 93 on him, so now they got to account for him as a receiver. Not that you're ever going to throw him a football, but if you put 53 on him, all right, they know they can ignore that guy. Put 93 on him, you know you're going to use him a lot in the game. Now they have to look at him, and Michigan used that as a chess piece advantage in that first half, but they realized, you know what, we're going to have a long day trying to block this pass rush, right? They were bringing some pressure off of Michigan's right side, and they weren't able to pick it up. Let's tip our caps to them. So what did Sharon do? What did he do? He said, you know what? I'm kicking them in the ass, and they can't stop me from kicking them in the ass. So I'm going to keep doing it until they stop it. And you know what they didn't do, Mike Stoner? They never stopped it. So, yes, Penn State got manhandled. And if James Franklin, one time, I thought this was going to be one game where James Franklin didn't James Franklin, right? Remember he punted on that 4th down? I said, look, James learned some lessons, right? He's actually coaching responsibly. Then he gets in a crunch time situation on his own side of the field, and on a 4th down, when his quarterback is struggled the whole day, he decides to go for it again, and instead of punting and playing defense. That's the game right there. The one thing you can count on playing Penn State when you face James Franklin is always going to be James Franklin, Boone's Farm coach. James Franklin is a Boone's Farm coach. And if you ever had Boone's Farm, you know you can get on any Kroger shelf, right? You don't have to go to the specialty wine shop to get it. It's one
People
of those
know,
you can find anywhere. You can find a James Franklin anywhere. You might as well get a discount. Penn State, you spending all this money, and you're not getting your money. What's going on?
Sam, people know what Boone's Farm is. It's trash. Belongs on the curb. Trash day was yesterday in my neighborhood. Get him out of town. 4-16 against Ohio State and Michigan. Just saying.
She wants him to stay, but all these coaches, let's be real clear about what all this is about. And you tell me, Alejandro and Josh, what you think. Listen, if Michigan had a sign stealing scheme that was so elaborate that it was this vast network, how much of an impact did it really make? You see how they're trying to reduce Michigan's success to, oh, they added Connor Stallions. Man, I seem to remember in 21, Mike McDonald got hired, Jerome Moore got promoted. Oh, they hired Ron Bellamy. They hired Mike Hart. I saw Steve Clinkscale come in. He changed his whole damn staff. And they're trying to make it be about Connor Stallions? Really? That's what all these coaches are trying to do. You know why? Because they're getting drilled. All these coaches are getting drilled. And they're looking for reasons, for excuses to explain it. Because if I'm James Franklin and I'm getting this Chris style money, I got to tell these people why they're sipping on Boone's Farm every day, right? Why am I pouring Boone's Farm in your glass and it tastes like Boone's Farm? Why? Why? Because, you know why? Because they're cheap. They're cheap. They're doing a switcheroo on me. That's what he's trying to tell you. But that's not what's really going on. What's really going on is you're not good enough. Coach better. But you can't. That's what's going on with James Franklin right now. Can't coach better. He's limited. And we're seeing today that's what was on display. And that's what all these coaches are afraid of, right? If Michigan beats you now, what excuse do you have? The sign stealer guy is gone. The head coach isn't even there. What excuse do you have, right? It gets close game at halftime. Michigan comes out and pounds you. Ohio State, we're going to look and see how it happens because in 2021, Michigan was up 14-13 at halftime. Blew you out 42-27. Last year, they were down at halftime, 17-13. Blew you out. No, I think it was 20-17. Blew you out 45-23. So, I mean, I guess they're waiting until halftime to use the signs, right? That's what they want you to believe. That's what this is all about, making excuses for inadequate coaching. And you had ADs and a commissioner in the Big Ten that bought it hook, line, and sinker, and a guy who knows nothing about football. That's the commissioner of the Big Ten. Knows nothing about football, bought it hook, line, and sinker, talking about player safety. That's the dumbest stuff I've ever heard. And he actually said it. He actually said it in his statement. Can you believe he said that? You know what? I think I sound like Luther Vandross in the shower, right? I'm singing to myself. I think I sound like Freddie Jackson. Then my wife, she tells me, no, you don't sound like that. Don't sing in public. Don't go out in public saying all that, making it sound like you can sing, right? That's what happened when he came to Michigan. He said that dumb stuff about player safety when he was in the meetings with Michigan, and he got laughed at. He literally got laughed at. And then he still said that stuff in public. That was a dumb statement then. It is a dumb statement now. And now you're getting the chance to really, really see what it's all about. These coaches don't like Jim Harbaugh, and they're getting beat by Jim Harbaugh, and they had you be their henchman to move him out. But he's still beating them anyway. So now what?
Sam, it was pretty chilly out here in the second half, but I warmed up because you're dropping the heat, man. No, in all seriousness, no, what's the worst thing you can do to a team that is very talented? You put a chip on their shoulder, right? You put a chip on their shoulder. You make them feel like everybody outside is doubting you. That everybody outside of your program is doubting you. They think it's all Connor Stallions. They think it's all cheating. They think it's all this and that. They think that without that, you are not going to beat them, right? You give that to one of the most talented teams, if not the most talented team in the country, one of the best coach teams in the country. What's going to happen? We see Georgia every year when they win national titles. They invent motivation for themselves, right? They invent the narrative that nobody believes in them. Well, this isn't an invented narrative. People out there don't believe in these players. People out there don't believe in these coaches. And what's the worst possible thing if you are everybody else to do to a bunch of hyper-competitive athletes and coaches? Tell them that nobody believes in them because they're going to prove you wrong. And that's what they did here today.
Yeah, I'm looking at my stats, and they're being sent to me. James Franklin against top 10 opponents. I got to credit my guy, Steve Clark, who does a great job as an analyst on WTKA. He is 1-13. 1-13 against the top 10 since the Big Ten championship game in 2016. 1-13. And you mean to tell me, you Penn State fans, you believe that sign stealing stuff was the difference? After this man has shown you time and time again his inadequacies, you bought that? You deserve to lose your money if that's the case. You deserve to get got. I don't even feel sorry for you anymore. You still paying him. You let him steal all your money for all I care if you want to keep paying him and you take excuses like that. He's getting drilled by better coaches left and right. You want better results? Get a better coach. Plain and simple. I'm sorry, Josh. I didn't mean to hijack it, man, but this is
they're booing him here. Yeah.
This is garbage. This is what's going on right now. And somebody needs to call it out. That's why it was so good to see Michigan go in there and get it done. And you see everybody that's in the media that has some semblance of Michigan affiliation or a real strong tie to Michigan kind of standing up and being counted. Like, I was so proud of Dez. Dez took Stephen A to town. Dez gave Stephen A the business. Now, Stephen A shouldn't comment on college football. After you just said a couple years ago that Dwayne Haskins, I don't know if they can get it done because Dwayne Haskins is this great runner. Dwayne Haskins is the most prolific passer in Ohio State history, and Stephen A, he went out there and stereotyped him as a black quarterback. He should never comment on college football again. But here he is talking about Michigan should be banned from the college football playoff because they cheated. Wait, hold on, Stephen A.
He backtracked.
He did backtrack. You know why he backtracked? Because very kind of hidden secret about Michigan that they won the Joe Moore Award back-to-back years, and Jim Harbaugh basically changed his whole staff after 2020. You know, no one knew that. That was all hidden information. You had to. That was intel that wasn't readily available to someone that's on the pedestal at ESPN with all kind of researchers. No way they could have found that information out.
It was a VIP story, Sam. It was a VIP story.
You're right. Like, come on, man. Shut up about Michigan. Shut up about college football. But all of them are buying it. All of them are thinking it because it's easy. It's low-hanging fruit because there's so many people that hate Michigan. So I was proud of Dez taking him to town. Was proud of Charles kind of standing up saying, man, this is bull. We've been stealing signs since the Little Giants. And I'm not talking about the movie, even though they stole signs in the Little Giants movie. I'm talking about Charles when he played for the Fremont Little Giants, right? They've been stealing signs since elementary school, since middle school, since high school. This is such a part of the game, and they're trying to make it out to be this grand espionage plot. Like, come on, man. Coach better. That should be the message coming out of today. Coach better. You want to beat Michigan? Coach better. Period.
All I got to say, we have 14 days until November 25th. It can't get here soon enough. Michigan against Ohio State, potential 1 versus 2 matchup, probably a top 3 matchup guaranteed. Sam, how excited are you for that matchup? The storylines going into that game are endless.
Oh, we're going to be here all night, man. Come on.
All right. Fine,
I'm more curious before we go, Alejandro, the mood from the players. I saw what you had to say about Trevor Keegan. He said something about the storm. The storm is coming because, look, we don't know if they're going to have Jim Harbaugh, right? Yeah. The spotlight shifts to a courtroom in Washington County on Friday where now the judge on the matter wants to hear from the Big Ten. He did not grant the TRO because it was an ex parte filing. He's going to give the Big Ten a chance to respond. And so there's still no clue, no clear sign that Jim Harbaugh is going to be available. They showed today they could play without him, but what was the mood of the players coming out of this game as you look ahead to Maryland?
Angry. They were angry, Sam. I mean, Trevor Keegan, he is a very personable, a very friendly person. I have never seen him look like he did in his post-game press conference. You know, you saw them board the plane yesterday. You saw them come to the stadium today wearing Michigan versus everybody shirts, wearing those beanies. You saw how they celebrated. You saw what they said post-game. They FaceTimed Jim Harbaugh post-game, right? Jim Harbaugh, apparently he didn't really say anything. He just went like this to the players, but they're pissed. And they'll say that flat out. This is a team that feels like everybody outside of their building, that everyone outside of the program, that everyone outside the Michigan fan base is out to get them. And whether or not that's true, you have put a chip on their shoulder. You have given them motivation. And they didn't need the motivation, right, Sam? Like, this is a team that already, I think, is more talented than Ohio State on November 25th at Michigan Stadium. You give them that motivation that they didn't need because they are back-to-back Big Ten champions. And they feel like it, man. Like, you saw the way they celebrated on the field. You saw the way they celebrated after. They called Jim Harbaugh this is a team that embodies who he is, right? Jim Harbaugh since he stepped off that airplane at Detroit Airport in December 2014, he has recreated Michigan football in his image. And what better way to celebrate that, to honor that, right, than to watch Michigan run it 32 times in a row to win the game at Penn State. A classic Michigan offensive line willing this team to victory. This team will honor Jim Harbaugh, if he's not around. They will fight for Jim Harbaugh in whatever manner they can. They will take any outside slight and take it personally. As Trevor Keegan said, it's not that we're waiting for the storm. We are the storm, right? They believe they are the most talented defense in the country. They believe they are the most talented team in the country, I believe. And what more can you say? You made them play angry, man. Don't make them angry. You made them angry.
Yeah, man. Look at that defense. That was a rousing performance. I saw Kenneth Grant run a 4.3 40 down the field.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Kenneth Grant chased down a running back, Sam. Even the players were impressed. Ray Sean Betty was like, is that Kenneth Grant? Is that KG? Yeah, it is KG. I was standing in front of fans who could not believe. I don't know if it was Katron Allen, who it was. They could not believe that he got chased down by a defensive lineman. Man, he's on the freaks list for a reason, right? But you talk about Penn State, this is a fan base that when James Franklin trots out whatever formation that was for that 2-point conversion at the end, when they try and fail to get a 2-point conversion early, when you see some of these fourth down decisions, listen, when they announce the crowd, one of the biggest crowds in stadium history, and they say, the greatest show in football, thanks to James Franklin. You know what I heard? I heard booing. Yeah. How's that for champagne?
He's not good.
Huh?
He's not good. Let's just call it spade a spade. He's not good.
All right, fellas. I know we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of post game to do, folks. Much more coverage coming. We got the best team in the land. Alejandro, Josh, Zach Shaw's there. We got Steve Lorenz and Bryce Marriage all over it. Everything you want to know about Michigan football, basketball, and recruiting. Big announcement tomorrow, by the way. A 5-star prospect, Kenai Roos, on the basketball side of things, set to make his decision. I'm going to be talking about that when I write about it in the morning, leading up to his decision. So you want to tune in for that over on the MichiganInsider.com, as well as all the intel that we're going to be finding out during the week about what's going on. Because another thing, before we got here, I got to say, there's a movement afoot within the leadership at Michigan to explore the options as a football program. I didn't hear anyone talking about the Michigan as a whole leaving the Big Ten Conference. But if you think Michigan is going to take what just happened to it lying down and it just passes, they just get over it, you got another thing coming. Because here you have a program where Michigan is like a mansion, right? Ohio State's like a mansion. It's if you want to call the Big Ten a neighborhood, it's 2 mansions in the neighborhood. Then it's a condo named Penn State. Everybody else is a timeshare. They don't even count. They don't even matter. The timeshare programs put them to the side. You just kick one of your mansions in the ass. You know what that mansion is saying? You know what? We're going to look for another mansion. We're going to look for another neighborhood. That's what Michigan is saying right now. That's what Michigan is. I mean, I'm trying to put it in terms that make it plain. Michigan is going to explore its options as far as another neighborhood. I'm not telling you Michigan's going to leave the Big Ten tomorrow or next year, but the contract is up in 6 years, right? And you can rest assured that Michigan will be kind of looking around. Maybe it's being part of a super conference where football breaks off. Maybe it's being an independent. They're going to be looking to see what happens with Notre Dame. Does Notre Dame get that $75 million deal? But I'm not going to sit here if I'm Michigan and let people just punk me. Let people punk me when they're privileged just to be they're benefiting from my prowess. And then you want to kick me in the tail? That's the gratitude you want to show me? That is the posture that some in leadership are taking right now. Again, I'm not promising you they're going to leave overnight. But if you thought that it was an insane thought to think that there might be one day where Michigan football isn't a part of the Big Ten, it's not so insane anymore.
And let's leave it at that.
As the kids say, bet.
All right.
baby.
We'll see you next time on the next post-game show. We'll see you, folks.